Everyone. I am City Councilor Ricardo Arroyo, Chair of the Committee on Government Operations. It is Friday, February 11th, 2022, and we are here today for a virtual working session on Docket 0240, an ordinance amending City of Boston Code Chapter XV, Section X1, XI, creating Commission on Black Men and Boys, referred to the committee on February 2nd, 2022, and sponsored by Councilor Julia Mejia. In accordance with Chapter 20 of the Act of 2021, modifying certain requirements of the open meeting law and relieving public bodies of certain requirements, including the requirement that public bodies conduct its meetings in a public place that is open and physically accessible to the public. The City Council will be conducting this working session virtually via Zoom, and it is being recorded. This enables the City Council to carry out its responsibilities while adhering to public health accommodations and ensuring public access to its deliberations through adequate alternative means. The public may watch this working session via live stream at www.boston.gov/citycounciltv and on Xfinity 8, RCN 82, and Verizon Channel 964. It will also be rebroadcasted at a later date. Written comments may be sent to the committee email at ccc.go@boston.gov and will be made part of the record and available to all councilors. An ordinance creating this Commission on Black Men and Boys was codified last September as Chapter 11 of the ordinances of 2021. The ordinance outlines the membership of the Commission and defines its objectives, which include but are not limited to advising the mayor on issues pertaining to Black men and boys, determining budget and policy priorities, and designing projects and programs that promote equity. The docket would amend the current ordinance by adding provisions relating to an executive director and defining the role of the executive director. The executive director would be appointed by the mayor to oversee the daily operations of the commission and would advise the commission. The executive director would have the powers of a department head to execute contracts and to manage personnel. And the executive director would be a member of the commission ex officio without additional compensation and would have a vote on matters before the commission. Joining the committee today on behalf of the administration are Frank Farrow, the executive director of the Office of Black Male Advancement, Chief Mariangeli Solis Severa, Equity and Inclusion Mayor's Office, and Tito Jackson, a former Boston City Councilor and currently the CEO of Verdant Medical. I'll now turn it over to lead sponsor Julia Mejia for opening remarks, and then to my colleagues in order of arrival. And I just want to make clear that we're joined today by Councilor Mejia, who's the lead sponsor, Councilor Bach, President Flynn, Councilor Louis Jen, Councilor Fernandez Anderson, and Councilor Worrell. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilor Mejia.
Thank you to the chair for working with our office to schedule this so quickly. We really do appreciate it. Our office originally filed and passed this ordinance establishing a Commission on Black Men and Boys last September, as you mentioned. Since then, we have been working with advocates and the administration to ensure that the commission is set up for success. A major hurdle our office has discussed with advocates is making sure that they are properly equipped with staff and a budget in order for them to get the work done of uplifting Black men and boys here. The mayor announced our new executive director of the Office of Black Male Advancement, and this amendment to the ordinance is designed to align his work with the work of the Commission on Black Men and Boys. However, due to the nature of this amendment, we attempted to suspend and pass this ordinance at a previous council meeting, but it was decided that a meeting and a working session would be needed. So we are holding this meeting to offer an opportunity for councilors to ask questions and suggest any changes to the amendment we are proposing. I do have a few questions to consider, but I will wait for that time when we have that in the agenda. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. If it's not too much of a bother for the other councilors present, is it possible for you all to reserve your opening for the questions as well, so we can just let the presentation from the city go first, and then we can get into the language? I see you with your hand up, Councilor Bach.
Sorry, Councilor Arroyo, please forgive the indulgence. I just wanted to say, because I have a meeting I have to step out to and then come back. So I just wanted to say that I'm here in support of this measure and grateful for the opportunity to hear from the administration. I think this is exciting, and I think it's great for the council to get a little more detail on the scaffolding. If there's part of the hearing that I miss, I do have a staff member watching throughout, and just wanted to express my thanks to the sponsor.
Thank you, Councilor Bach. And actually, if anybody else has to leave to something and isn't sure they'll be there for the question and answer session and would like to go now, please just raise your hand and I'll go to you. Or if you have to leave, we'll take you out of order. if that works for the rest of my council colleagues, just to sort of move this along. And seeing no hands, I will just go now directly to the administration. Whoever is going first there.
Buenas tardes, everyone. Happy to go first. My name is Maria Angeli Solis Silvera. Looking forward to the conversation today. And I'm just really grateful for this space, grateful to obviously Councilor Mejia for making this happen. And just really looking forward to Executive Director Frank Farrow to be able to answer any other questions that we have regarding the amendment. But any questions outside of that, we'll probably ask if we can do a briefing later on to the councilor so that we can actually engage in the conversation that's at hand today. But really looking forward to it. Thank you all for your time, and I'll be here in case we have any extra questions.
Thank you, Mr. Farrow. If you're.
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chair Arroyo and the council body for taking time out to hear this amendment. My name is Frank Farrow. I am the recently appointed Executive Director of the Office of Black Male Advancement, a newly created office by Mayor Wu, and will be overseeing the Black Men and Boys Commission. Thank you for the time to hear this amendment. We put forward this amendment after discovering some issues with the language, and just wanted to ensure that an executive director was named in the language. In the current filing, the current ordinance, the chair has responsibilities of operations and administration and overseeing of contracts and personnel. And based off of our communication with the legal department, that is something that has to be the responsibility of a city employee versus the chair of the commission, who will be a non-city employee. And so we made these amendments in partnership and coordination with Councilor Mejia, who was the lead sponsor on the original ordinance, to ensure that we have the ability to have a fully functioning office and commission going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't believe former Councilor Tito Jackson's here. And so just to put it on the record so that people know what the change is, I'm going to read the actual amendment that's being offered currently as written is section 1511(2)(c), chair shall be stricken in its entirety and replaced with the following: chair, the mayor shall appoint a member as the chairperson of the commission. And then section 1511(2)(d), compensation shall be stricken in its entirety and replaced with the following: executive director, the mayor shall appoint an executive director to oversee and run the daily operations and administration of the commission, which shall be a paid position. The executive director shall serve as the advisor of the commission and shall have the powers of a department head with respect to the execution of contracts and matters of personnel management within said office. The executive director shall serve as a member of the commission ex officio and without additional compensation, and shall have an official vote on matters before the commission. And then a new section 1511(2)(e), compensation shall be added at the end thereof. Compensation, the members shall serve without compensation. And then section 2 of it is section 1511(5), the effective date. This ordinance shall be effective upon passage. So couple questions that has flagged, and then I'll kick it to all the other councilors present to say an opening as well as whatever questions they have. But I think part of the confusion here is that there is an Office of Black Male Advancement and there is a commission for Black men and boys. And this is creating an executive director for the commission, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so part of the question here is the language around the executive director of the commission being a paid position is written in a way that's sort of confusing. And I just need clarity as to whether the executive director of the commission would be receiving a salary from the commission, or because it's you in both cases as the Office of Black Male Advancement. Which salary are you getting, or is that two salaries? Is really what I think some of the language here is a little confusing around.
So there will be one salary. I will be paid under the Office of Black Male Advancement, but I will hold the title of Executive Director of the office, as well as Executive Director of the Black Men and Boys Commission as a city employee. Like some of the recommendation that comes from the Black Men and Boys Commission, I'm able to kind of spearhead and lead as the Office of Black Male Advancement. I will not be receiving two salaries. I will only be compensated for one.
And so the follow-up question to that is, because it speaks to compensation for the executive director of the commission, is there ever a world where the executive director of the commission is not the same as the person who is, say, heading the Office of Black Male Advancement? Is there ever a chance when that's two different people? And then in that situation, provided that person doesn't have another, I guess, department head job, is that person being compensated through the commission?
So the answer to that is no. I believe the intent on including language around compensation was to be transparent with the council as we work through this process, that there will be a fully functioned office that oversees the commission. And so we added language about compensation just to let the council know that there will be an office, and we will have a fully staffed and knock on wood, a fully funded budget to do the work on behalf of the mayor's office.
Okay, and so I just want to separate Office of Black Male Advancement from the Commission of Black Men and Boys. Specifically, the Commission Black Men and Boys, which is what this language, this amendment is about for the commission, not for the Office of Black Male Advancement. When we get into the commission itself, is this creating a paid executive director position?
Not for the commission, no.
Okay. All right. So I think we might want to do some changes there that make that more clear. I'm going to go to the rest of my counselors who are present and give them a chance to, the rest of my fellow counselors who are present, and give them a chance to give an opening statement and sort of speak to the questions they have before we get sort of into the language. And so I'm going to do that in order of arrival. So folks know that's Councilor Mejia, Councilor Bach had to step out. That is Council President Flynn, followed by Councilor Louis-Jean, followed by Councilor Fernandez-Anderson, followed by Councilor Worrell, and we were joined by Councilor Murphy as well. And so I'm going to go directly to Councilor Mejia.
Thank you. I just really one thing that we need to work out is this question around payment. So I'm glad that you were asking these questions. The administration has let us know that they would like to move forward with appointing Frank as the executive director of the commission, and he currently serves as the ED of the Office of Male Advancement, which is also a paid position. But it seems like you guys were already kind of workshopping that, because on the surface, this is an ordinance that does not state that the executive director of the commission has to be Frank, or it has to be the same person who heads the Black Male Advancement, and that should be fine. But in practice, right, if the administration's goal is for the executive director of the commission, this would be the same person as the executive director of the Male Advancement, this person will be pulling, but it's not, right? So thank you for that clarity. I guess, you know, as a recommendation moving forward, I would just like to strongly recommend that the administration comes up with an ordinance to establish an Office of Black Male Advancement, which potentially might be the best option to avoid any confusion like this in the future. Or can we move forward as is? Councilor Arroyo, just curious about what your thoughts on that is.
I think we could codify the Office of Black Male Advancement, absolutely. It's not a new department, it is an office. But I also think there's language tweaks we can probably make to this amendment that just clean it up, and then it can get passed as amended. And then we can take next steps if we need them. But I think there are probably ways we can fix the language here to make more clear who's getting paid, if they're getting paid, if this is a position that is permanently tied to a city appointment by the mayor, and that person won't take a salary. But those kinds of things got to sort of get cleaned and tweaked here, I think.
Thank you, that's all.
So I'm going to go to Council President Flynn.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. I also want to say thank you to my city council colleagues, Councilor Mejia, for the important work she's done on this, and all of the city councilors as well. I want to say thank you to Mayor Wu for the important work and leadership she's provided. I had a good couple conversations over the last several weeks with Frank Farrow, so I know I have great confidence and respect for Frank, and I support the proposals that are presented before us, and glad to know that we're making great progress on this. And Frank, please know that whatever the city council can do to be helpful to you and in the committee, and we're here to play a positive role and be as helpful as we possibly can. But I know you're going to do an exceptional job, and it's been good working with you over the last month as well. Councilor Arroyo, I have no questions. I just wanted to thank the mayor's team and my colleagues on the city council as well.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. I want to just make sure I go in the order. Sorry, let me just open this up and make sure that I do this in the right order. Councilor Louis Jen, followed by Councilor Fernandez Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm really excited that we're finally getting off of the ground. Thank you to the commendable work of Julia, of former City Councilor Tito Jackson, former Mayor Kim Janey, and Frank. I'm excited for you to be the one heading up this effort. And I'm excited to, in a few weeks in civil rights, we'll be having the working session for the application. So I'm excited for that as well. A recommended fix, I don't think it's going to fully fix the problem. I agreed with a lot of what Julia said from the administration and in terms of our need to potentially find a way of approving or codifying the Office of Black Male Advancement. But I'm wondering if a potential fix could also be adding language to amending the ordinance to say the executive director of both positions shall be the same person, like as one of the fixes that we need to make, so that there's no ambiguity between that and shall receive, a singular compensation for functioning as executive director in both capacities or something of that nature. And then another question I had. So the membership shall consist of 21 members. But members of city council are also selecting some of those 21 members, but that isn't codified here in this language. Is that language that we should codify here so that it's clear that 7 of those members will be selected by members of the city council? And then under which terms of appointment? Under section 1511.2, it says terms, 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years. Which terms will be allocated for the ones that city council are recommending?
Is that a question for me to answer, Councilor? I would share that Mayor Wu, in her commitment to collaboration with the city council, offered that the city council would be able to make a recommendation of 14 members, of which she would take 7. So it's not part of the original ordinance or what was codified. This is just an offering in a spirit of collaboration on behalf of Mayor Wu.
Any more questions, Councilor Louis Jen?
No, those are my only questions for now. Thank you.
All right, and we'll do rounds on it. This will become more of a conversation than a call on folks. Councilor Fernandez Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, Councilor Arroyo. Good afternoon, Mr. Farrow. How are you? I don't necessarily have a question, and it could evolve into a question, but I think that obviously I'm in support of the commission, and just wanted to understand a little bit more if there was a little bit of so just sort of understanding the structure of the commission as it stands right now. I had to step away, and I just wanted to hear a little bit about where we stand right now so that I can ask my question if it hasn't been already answered.
Okay, that's fine. So do you want us to come back around?
Well, I guess the question is, can you clarify in terms of the structure of the commission as it stands right now?
That's probably a question for Mr. Farrow, but if anybody else wants to grab at that in terms of the way that the commission is currently formed.
The current ordinance of the commission?
Yeah, like the current structure of the commission as it's currently structured to be done. I mean, we do have the original. Everybody should have hopefully received the original ordinance that created the commission, which sort of details all of that, which should be in people's email inboxes, hopefully, so folks can pull that out. But just in terms of the membership of it says 21 members, but what the current construction of it is and how this changes it. If I understand what Councilor Fernandez-Anderson is asking, is basically how this changes the current format of the board. Is that correct?
Right.
All right. So basically, what's the current structure and how does this change that? And I think this goes back to what you were trying to explain about having the powers to execute contracts and things like that.
Yeah. So the current structure, it gives powers to the chair of the commission of personnel, hiring, firing, and overseeing contracts. So the change will now include language for an executive director, which would be a city employee that has the oversight and the power over personnel in contracts. As the chair is going to be a non-city employee, and as I was informed by legal that they would not be able to execute contracts on behalf of the city as a non-city employee. So we just amended the language to make sure that the executive director has those powers in the language.
Oh, okay, I see. So it's still under the executive director works as a department in the city, but the board would be independently overseeing the commission, but independent from the city?
Yeah, the 21 boards would be residents of the city of Boston, not employees.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer it for the most part for you, Councilor Fernandez-Anderson?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think that, you know, I wish that it was totally independent. But I think that I must have missed some parts of this where I didn't realize that this is where we were. I think that, you know, like the Men's and Boys Coalition, and I don't know if this was said already, and I'm sorry, I tried to be in hearings and present, and I had a call. I'm so sorry, I had to step out. But it is what it is now, and so we move forward with that. But we understand that, you know, whenever there is an agency or whenever there is an effort to provide equity for marginalized communities in Boston, especially in a city that supposedly propagates that we are a forward, progressive, liberal, whatever, and yet these types of pretenses are hypocritical to the actual practices, right? Hence systemic racism and all this stuff. So we know why we're here. We know why we need it. And then when we get here, people in their own agendas or, you know, just sort of compensative egos, like they want to be able to be in spaces and object to a thing because they are feeling threatened that somehow if we're fighting systemic racism, it's going to throw everybody over their heads, or like we're going to start fighting people back. And it's not that. Like, to be able to do a commission and just do something right, it just means that there's a need for a certain group of people. And therefore we do the right thing. When it's right, it's right. When it's wrong, it's wrong. And so it's unfortunate that I think it's sort of shaped it, or it led to that. But I just want to let you know that I think that this administration is definitely in support to collaborate and see this through. I am certainly in support, and I look forward to working in collaboration if you ever need my support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilor Worrell, followed by Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and congratulations again, Frank, on your executive director role. And I'm excited to work with you in collaboration with advancing Black men and boys in the city of Boston. I have no questions, just that You know, we're heading in the right direction. And I think the next step would be making sure that we have a fully funded department. So I'm looking forward to those next steps and to the action items that you put forth. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Murphy.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Councilor Arroyo, for holding this meeting, and my colleagues who've already asked some great clarifying questions, because I know we're here to kind of make sure we're all on the same page. But welcome, Marinelli and Frank. I look forward to working with you and excited for your new role, Frank, and the role you're in now, Marinelli. So no specific questions right now, but happy to be on to listen and learn.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. So now let's just talk about how we make this thing happen. And I just want to clarify one thing, which is the mayor makes 21 selections for this commission, correct? The mayor ends up making that. You already explained in the spirit of sort of collaboration, she's allowing the council to pick some of those, but all 21 of them get officially selected by the mayor, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then the executive director is also a position that is being selected by the mayor. The mayor gets to decide who the executive director is?
Correct.
Okay, so good, just to get that clarified and out of the way. So I think there's two ways to do this. One of them is similar to what Councilor Louis-Jean brought up, which is we could create a specific ordinance that establishes the Office of Black Male Advancement and then makes the executive director of that office the ex officio member of the commission. And that separate ordinance would be able to do the following, which is create the Office of Black Male Advancement in a way that is codified. We can't refer to an office that isn't codified. So because that office hasn't been created through an ordinance, we can't just refer to it in an amendment because it doesn't exist in the books. And so the ordinance essentially would create that Office of Black Male Advancement. It would then create the position of an executive director for that office. And then it would state, if done correctly, that the executive director will have an ex officio seat on the commission. And that would probably deal with a lot of the confusing language that we have here around executive director positions and how compensation works for that executive director. However, that's one route that we might still have to take. But I think the other way we could do this is just by making a very simple edit on the amendment that was proposed. And that edit, as I see it, is the mayor shall appoint an executive director, which is all the original language. This is the additional language of the Black Boys and Men's Commission that shall be an existing paid employee of the city of Boston. So that's the additional language that we would put in there. To oversee this, now we're going back to language that already exists. This is already in the text amendment. We really just put in that one sentence. So the one sentence that gets added is of the Black Boys and Men Commission that shall be an existing paid employee of the city of Boston. And then we go back to the existing language right after that, which is to oversee and run the daily operations and administration of the commission. This is where we would delete this one section, which shall be a paid position. So put in the sentence that I said before, take out we shall be a paid position. And what you're left with, and I'm just going to read it as a whole amendment now with that deletion and with that insertion, would be the mayor shall appoint an executive director of the Black Boys and Men Commission that shall be an existing paid employee of the city of Boston to oversee and run the daily operations and administration of the commission, period. The executive director shall serve as the advisor of the commission and shall have the powers of the department head with respect to the execution of contracts and matters of personnel management within said office. The executive director shall serve as a member of the commission ex officio and without additional compensation, and shall have an official vote on matters before the commission. I think that edit, that deletion and that insertion take care of sort of the confusion that we have here about the double pay and how all that's getting compensated, and just clarifies it. Obviously we can do that, or we can do a separate ordinance, like I said, and just officialize and codify the actual Office of Black Male Advancement, or we could do both, frankly. But I think this is how we can get it passed on this if we amend that language in that way. Councilor Mejia, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so basically it's what I mentioned earlier in terms of just like making it as simple as possible, right? Where
yeah, and so
okay, great.
So the simplest way to do
I'm down with that. I feel like that's the best course forward.
Yeah, so to be clear, the simplest way possible is the amendment that I just made, which is all the language remains the same, except we put in after the mayor shall appoint an executive director, we make clear of what, the mayor shall appoint an executive director of the Black Boys and Men Commission that shall be an existing paid employee of the city of Boston to oversee and run the daily operations and administration of the commission. And we remove that 4 or 5 words that come after that, which shall be a paid position. We just remove that. And then everything else stays the same. And I think on that amended version, we can pass this as early as next week. I know that we talked to legal on our side, and that language would work. It's up to you all to have the administration come back and say that your legal agrees that this doesn't cause any unforeseen consequences in the abilities of the executive director of the Black Boys and Men Commission, that this allows them to still do all of the things they have to do. But in terms of the language, that simple edit of an insertion of a sentence, the deletion of one, sort of not even like a half sentence, would allow us to get this through relatively quickly. And so I think that works. I don't know if anybody else has any opinions on that or wants to sort of clarify anything on that, but I know from our legal side, our central staff legal folks have looked at it. That language works on our side. This is a question of if it has some unforeseen or unintended consequences on yours.
Just to input on behalf of the office and the administration that we agree to that simple edit. I will also circle back to legal, but we've had previous discussions and I think that works for us.
Okay, so that should clear it up. That should make it work. We'll submit it as an amended version, and it'll get to the point of what you're trying to do without creating all this sort of extra confusion around whether or not there's 2 salaries, whether or not it's a separate position from something that the mayor is going to do. Right? It does all of those things. And I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to add to that, but that'll basically simple fix, clarify that, delete that, and then we'll put that forward as an amended version.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. Really do
No problem.
appreciate how quickly you turned this around for all of us. So that was great. So thank you. Thank you to my colleagues too for your input and feedback in getting us there. Thank you.
Thank you all. And I just want to just make clear, because I haven't yet, but I support this work, obviously. I want this to succeed. Once this gets done, in terms of the amendment, the next step is the budget and making sure that the offices have the resources and the commission have the resources to do what they have to do. And so we'll keep an eye on that. But this simple legal sort of language fix to clarify this so that it's very clear what we're trying to do here and it doesn't leave any gray areas or unintended consequences, I think are really important. And so if your side agrees to it, which it sounds like they have, our side has looked at it and we'll put forward that amended version and it likely will come up for a vote this Wednesday after the committee report. Does anybody else have anything they want to close on or say? I'm happy. You could just raise hands. We don't have to do it in order if anybody has anything to add. Otherwise, yeah, I see Councilor Murphy.
Just thank you for holding this so quickly after our last meeting when we had these questions. And I look forward to the vote hopefully this Wednesday. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor
I know
Murphy.
people don't really have weekends, but have a nice weekend for everyone. It is Friday.
The city work leads to no weekends. But yes, I appreciate you all for coming in with thoughtful sort of a look at this. And so there's that. If anybody else wants to say anything, I'll open the floor to any counselor who wants to add a comment or speak. Otherwise, I'm just going to adjourn this because I think we've gotten the language that we need to make this work. And seeing no hands, I'm going to adjourn this. Thank you, Mr. Farrow. Thank you, Mariangeli Solis-Cervera. Appreciate you both for taking the time to be helpful here and answer questions. And thank you to my council colleagues, as always, for being thoughtful. And also thank you to Christine O'Donnell, who helped with this language and sort of identified the issues and how we could fix them. So thank you to our central staff, as always. So thank you all. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.